Hello everybody and welcome back to Wappelville. I'm going to just try and set some things up here. We're back in the Marvel Crisis Protocol universe. And what we've got here is Ultron, I believe. We're going to try and do some non-metallic metal stuff on him. Now I got some little things to do here, like set up the chat. So we'll see what this does. I've got to authorize it and do all these other kind of things, so that means typing in passwords. So just let me have a few seconds to do that kind of stuff. I think you can see it over on the other side. Oh, there's Trevor. Hey Trevor, how's it going? Let's do this here. I think we got that stage done. Next stage. For whatever reason, last time the chat popped up right away. Okay, so it didn't like that. Let's do this instead. That's bit. Okay. 1 second. Yay. Yes, allow. And there we go. I'm just going to quickly set my opacity here. And we've got 2 of these, so let's see if we can just get rid of one. Yay, Tutti Fruit's in the house. How are you doing? Oh, and first, last. Yeah, well, this is... Well, technically, no. I thought I was going to be earlier, but actually, right before I was about to start and click the on button, I went, oh, I just uploaded a video for the patrons. I might want to actually let them know about it. So that's what I've been doing the last few minutes. What I'm doing now is getting rid of that. So you can see Ultron here. And we're going to make this picture bigger, like so. So that's close enough. What we're going to try and do is a combination of some non-metallic things. And you can't see my cursor wandering over the little glowing red areas, but see right there on his leg. So check out, I think you can see what I'm doing, lining up that one to the other one there. So we'll do some glowing things there. Make this picture smaller again. And somebody's going to be happy to see this because I haven't tried this yet. And now you can see those bubbles in there. Now listen to that. This stuff is obviously super thin, just like some of the other fluorescents that we've tried. And that's sitting right over here on the palette. So you can see how thin that is, but look at this. That, I can tell you right now, covers a whole bunch better than just about all the other fluorescents. So what the heck, it's worth a try. And oh, well, we'll be trying this obviously on something that needs green glow because hey, why not? It could be something like Necrons or whatever. Base is going to be very similar to, and where the heck did she go? This one. So this is one of my last live episodes here. You can see we got blues, grays, greens, sepias. We painted this pretty much exclusively in Reaper paints. This one's going to be a mixed bag. We're going to use some GW stuff, some Creature Caster, some Reaper. We're going to spread the love. Now, a little bit bigger base to cover here. Pun intended. Haha. Let's say, I made it right on time. How you doing? I'm doing okay. Oh, sorry that you're disappointed. Alright, let's see what we got going here. Do I have any? I'm just looking for mold lines here. Sometimes those only show up when you prime things. Like a couple over here showed up when I primed them. Alright, let's set her aside. And let's try. So this is a Creature Caster Ivory, something like that. Bright Ivory. This is, and Nestor is going to love the fact that we got Faded Ultramarine out here. How's that? And I think we got some golden yellow, got a transparent blue, Reaper red. We do have some transparents out here, kind of the usual suspects. Leviathan blue, Achillean green. There was another thing I wanted to show you guys, and I've talked about this ad nauseum. Not all of you have seen it, and that is the idea of combining green and purple to make gray. I do this all the time with a whole bunch of other things. Oh, I tried to get that working. It didn't want to work. So I did a test of it, and yeah, that was already running late. I'll be doing another one of these though. And what he's referring to is the super chat. It's just like this, but it has some other features. And chief among those is the ability to actually donate to the YouTube page. And yeah, I tried to get that one going, and it just, for whatever reason, it was not cooperating. I don't know why. I'm going to give it another shot, of course, because not like we won't be doing one of these again later this week. So we're going to start out here first, though. This is snakebite leather. Let's just get that base going, right? Snakebite leather. There's some wildwood sitting over here, too. There's also some Leviathan blue sitting over here. There we go. Now I also have, where'd you go? This here, Lamy and medium. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the super chat. Now, of course, I'll have to. Any research that I did on it didn't really show that it was that much different from, say, something like the regular chat. But apparently, there is something different. I don't know why. I guess maybe because it wants just more information in general than, say, the regular chat, which all it wants is access to my Google stuff. So we'll see. We'll give it a try again. Yeah, there. That's see, what we're doing is just letting the Leviathan blue kind of do its own thing. It's mixing with some of the snakebite leather. I'm even gonna take some of this Vulpes pink here. That's another contrast thing. We're gonna add it to that because why? Look at the nifty color brown. It turns that. And you say, well, what's the deal with all these different colors of browns and blues? It's just concrete or rock or stone. It should just be gray. Well, I'm gonna bring back my regional figure. Well, doesn't that look a whole lot more interesting with all those different colors involved? I think it does. Now, let's see. Oh, first last. I enjoyed Ultron as a villain. And these are interesting minis. They are obviously, I guess they're on the not lighter side, on the larger side. So maybe 35 millimeter, something like that. Somewhere, yeah, 32, 30, probably more like 35. I guess if I had to just say, I think they're closer to 35s. So we're just going to go with this right now. You can see a little more hints of blues and whatever. But let's get to that main event that we were talking about here, and that is green. And that is, was that Warp Lightning Green? I'm just going to say it's Warp Lightning Green because that's what it looks like. Where's my shyish purple? That's around here somewhere. I think that's here. There we go. And we will mix these two together. Going to take some of the Lamy and medium. Oh, and let's get to... Now that you say, what's the deal with the purple and green? Why are you doing that? Well, as I glaze this stuff over the top here, a little more of the Lamy and medium, depending on how much purple or how much green that I've got, it's going to be tinted one way or the other. Because right now, that's a little more purple. But here we got a little more of the gray. Or greenish gray, I mean to say. That's really fun. Because look at the... I'm going to make the reference a little bit. Now, if you look at some of these references, there is... You can see some purple in there, but let's not forget our Leviathan blue here. So we just grabbed some of that. That's going to work its way into the mix. Not entirely unlike what happened with our base. Here, let's just chuck some of that right over the top here. The primer is the usual Badger Stynylrez, sort of a dark brown, that the ebony, I think it is, working its way up to the lighter colors and the sandy color. I think there's a little spritz of white on here. Oh, there's a couple other things that the super chat lets you do, and I mean, yeah, donation is part of it, but it also, I guess, lets you just the person who's chatting do more. We'll call it that. I think you can maybe, oh, your message is like highlighted, I think it is. So whereas right now everybody's is all the same. Now we have Tutti Fruits in there, first, last, Trevor. So everything looks the same, but I think if you super chat, you get some kind of special thing, maybe an emoticon or something like that. So there's more to it than just the financial part of things. Now here, you notice I just dipped into some of my snakebite leather stuff there. The idea for that is, well, I mean, if it's going to be this shiny metal, this kind of chrome stuff going on, we darn well better reflect some of that, and that's what we're doing. I'm going to do some of that here too. See on the underside of the leg we do that. Oh, where's that purple? I want this to be even more purple over here. Huh? Fruity Toot says he'll put his hand up for a mod. Well, hey, I will. I think what would you say? Any YouTube or live YouTuber, when they reach the point where a mod is needed, that's when you say, "Hallelujah! I need a mod." Because I'll never forget when Mel, the terrain tutor, when he got his, he had some mods working for him because he would already be on to the next thing, and there would be 3 pages worth of chat messages that he didn't see, and he actually had 2 different moderators telling people, "Look, we'll relay your question to him. We'll tell him he's kind of busy right now." All right, so right now we've just, yeah, we've. I don't know if you can really, yeah, you can't really see all the differences in colors here, but there's purples and greens and sepias and all kinds of fun stuff, and that's all gonna work its way. Some of it gets just allowed to show through all the way through our final result. We are going to let him dry for a little bit though, and I'm going to show you a few different types of metals here. So let's grab, so here's kind of your traditional non-metallic metal, right? This was a previous, here they are, my Necrons here. This is a previous army painting series. This is with metallic paints. Yeah, if I do this, see all the greens and purples and see even that blue. It's almost a little bit of a color shift effect. Now that was done with metallic paints. We're going to try and do that obviously here with just regular acrylics. There's another example. You can see there's some blues in there, some greens, some purples. We are going to try and do that same thing here with this guy. So let's see. To me, the base is dry enough to start working on, so let's do that. If you're wondering about these brushes and first, last, and we were having a little discussion with Tutti Fruits about these. So these are the typical craft brushes that I get from Hobby Lobby. Here's one that's really worn down on the left. The one on the right is brand new out of the package. But look at that. All of a sudden, kind of look the same. But here I have the added advantage of a basically de facto filbert brush. And so here's your package. Now, I have been told that the Treehouse Studios here, if you try and find their site, you're not able to get these brushes there because this is an Oklahoma City address. Now I have a new package. This just showed up the other day. This is also from so made in China, but it still says Oklahoma City, but it says Crafters Collection as opposed to Treehouse Studios. Now, what do we got here? We got Faded Ultramarine. We are going to start mixing that in with a few of our other colors. This is the same function that, say, the Maiden Flash served in the last one. So we're just mixing that in. And I just want to see where I'm at here. Make sure you guys can see it. And we're going to utilize, see that larger aspect of the brush. We're going to let some of the contrast paint get in there. Oh, look at this. It's almost a little bit of wet into wet here. And you can see it gets a nice a hint of sort of greenish gray there, but now it's semi-translucent. We got colors kind of mixing around, doing all sorts of fun things. So again, we're going to take some of that faded ultramarine, mix it with that snakebite leather, get a little bit of a greenish look to it. There we go. And like I said, some folks, they would probably want all of this stuff to be dry before they start to play around with it again. Me, I really just don't care, because wet into wet is really fun. And you sort of get that in a de facto way by doing it. So we'll just do some of that right over here. How's this? Shazam. A little wet into wet. Can't do that with a teeny tiny brush. No way. I'm gonna do that with this big old brush though. Look at that. Gonna get me some shadow there. Still have some of the opaque lighter paint in the brush, which is nifty. Also have to keep in mind, one of the reasons why I threw the creature caster paints out there is that they're very opaque. We've had a few discussions about that over the last few episodes, about why paint companies make paint a certain way, or what's the reason behind their paint line. There's got to be something. Can't just be to have bottles with their name on it, because that's not working for me. It's just to have a nifty bottle with your name on it. Not interested in that. There's got to be some actual reason why you made this paint, and if it's because it has a different formulation than other stuff that's out there, well then there you go. And the creature caster stuff is really oriented towards coverage. It covers really well. The reason I use the clear in liners, especially the clears, is because even when you use them at 100% opacity, they still have some transparency to them. That is useful to me in many different ways. So let's look at our... Oh, okay, here we go. Oh, Trevor. Oh, wait a minute. So first, last, I was looking for these at my local Hobby Lobby. Just didn't see them. Well, they put them in weird places. Also, too, you got to look for gray handles, because apparently this is the thing now. It's the exact same brush, gray handle instead of green. So that could fool you. These aren't always with the brushes. They could be in with the Scoopy. They could be in with the sewing stuff. They could be in with baby monitors. You never know where, and I don't know why Hobby Lobby would have those. But if they did, they would put those next to these brushes. I have no idea why they do this. It's kind of crazy, but they seem to hide them there. Let's see. Trevor said, if you still have trouble finding them, said, oh yeah. They are gray hand. Oh, and then Trevor, sorry Trevor, I didn't see you just do that. Yeah, I'm just looking back at the... Oh, see you in a sec then. Booty toots. Let's go this way. Again, just putting some of the lighter colors here on this, whatever it's supposed to be, blasted concrete. Can always take some of that off the brush, and because there's some contrast paint mixed in there, it gives that, even though the creature caster paints are supposed to be very opaque, we've taken away some of that natural opacity by just using the contrast paint. I like to... It's similar to what I'm doing with the contrast paint and regular paint. Well, it's a whole lot like what I do with the Reaper clears and regular paint. I just mix those together to get sort of a semi-translucent appearance out of them. So it's almost like opaque glazing. A little bit like that. So I'm going to also now start to think about my metals here, and I've got similar color to what's in the concrete. I'm just going to start to say, okay, where should some of my lights be? Where should some of my reflected light be? We'll deal with colors of reflected light later, but right now we are just on a bit of a exploratory mission right here. I am also going to try to work in, this is, what's that, mint green from Reaper. If it's going to be facing up towards the de facto sky, well, that should have a tint of some kind of sky blue to it. But see, even some of my original contrast layers, they're still wet enough for me to go grab those and do some mixing, some wet into wet, sneaky wet into wet that you wouldn't, it's not really a planned version of that. I know that could freak people out too, because they're like, why wouldn't you have that all set up intentionally? Oh, let's see. First, I say I figure I'd grab a set for trying out oils. Well, you know, I use them for everything. I use them for oils, acrylics, terrain, you name it, for putting down oxide pastes. There's not a single thing that I won't use the craft brushes for. Now let's go back to some of that shyish purple here. And we're, again, none of this is a highlight. Most of this is barely even a middle tone. And then as soon as I can, once some of the stuff down in the crevices is dried, well then we are going to try and hit some of that orange glow down into the crevices where it's needed, because that's something you want to get in early. Do it now instead of painting a whole bunch of stuff and then, oh my gosh, I got to go back in there again and paint some of that orange stuff in the crevices. Oh my gosh. So now I'm going to go back down to the base again. Let's grab a little bit of that snake bite leather here. And you notice I work on the entire figure equally at once. The base, the metals, all of it. Not just going to paint his face and then nothing else. Because when you do that, and I've said this 1,000 times, I will say it 1,001 times now. When you do that, you just run the risk of comparing your colors next to your primer. And when you do that, let's say you use black primer, there's a real good chance that the colors you use are going to be too light, because everything next to black looks light. Or the vice versa with a white primer. That's why you saw this could have a neutral sandy primer. Speaking of sandy colors, I think you can start to see how this is already beginning to develop a bit here, with colors facing the concrete that have a tendency to bit more towards the, well, concrete color, i.e. brown, tan, such and such. These stones here, they're kind of on the roundish side. There's not a lot of sharp edges to them. So I'm going to have to sort of inject that sharp edge there. Let's see. He's going to be shiny. He is going to be shiny. He's going to be real shiny. I'm trying to think, do I have anything here that's painted in acrylics that's got the shiny side? Actually, most of those are pretty much gone. Yeah. I will be doing some Lord of the Rings. We've got not Gondor, but Dol Amroth. That's right, Knights of Dol Amroth. Actually, the Forge World Infantry, Knights of Dol Amroth, that's headed this way. And I already have been prepping just the regular cav, the plastic cav. So you're talking about some serious shiny metallics there. Well, non-metallic metals. Depending on how many of those I can secure, maybe I even try and do some of those in a metallic, the true metallic metals, like I did for the Necrons there. Like I said, that's on the Patreon page. That is part of the Army Painter pledge level, and it's a simple thing. You do the $15 pledge. you get hundreds of hours of videos. That's kind of how that works. And by hundreds, I mean at least, well, I just tacked on 3 more. No, 2.5 more, something like that today. When I uploaded that or put the link up to the Patreon page, that was another about 2.5 hours, something like that, of basing video that I added. And where are those guys? Aha! So this is one of them. This is actually a flying base for an eagle right here. So tree bark, skulls. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. But see that piece of wire right there? That's what actually is going to hold the bird. We were using little bits and pieces of the Reaper basing stuff, swords, shields, that kind of thing. All kinds of fun stuff. You notice that I'm still sticking with the ye old nasty craft brush here. And a little bit I'll be using ye old nicer craft brush. How's that sound? Eventually I will get, and I promise I'll get to those real nifty brushes, that real happy tiny brushes. We'll use those eventually. Actually, yeah, we will convert over to that brush now, real quick. Oh, Falcon Nomad, how's it going? Any chance of some Bone Reapers in the near future? I still have to prep those guys yet. I don't want to just prep them just to prep them. I want to have a good theme for the basing and everything. They're all sitting here. What the heck is today? Well, it's Tuesday now. I'll be prepping some tomorrow. I know that for sure. And what I'll do is I'll start with, I'll be prepping the infantry and some of the cav. Later on this week, I'm going to prep Correctos, I think that's his name. We'll be prepping him. See, I'm starting to use more of the faded ultramarine here as we start to go a bit lighter. And what I want to do is actually multiple color schemes with them. Not just one. I want to try to use oils on some of them, because I think doing the whole skeleton skull bone thing with oils could be really fun for people to see. And then let's see, there is also, I've got a few, actually I've got also, I think I have Nagash too, because Arcan the Black, no, or is it Nagash? I have one of those too. So there's lots of undead stuff that's coming. How's that for just a brief description? Oh, I really like them. Bone, they're nice nuts. The Tomb Kings. Oh, hey Peter, how's it going? Oh yeah, the sisters, they're inbound here. So probably by the weekend I'll be prepping the first of the sisters. I'll begin with just the regular infantry. But I can't wait to do some of the Repentia and the new Seraphim and everything else. So you can see what I'm doing here. Now it becomes more of the sort of the sky blue color there. And we still have some of those initial glazes. They're still wet. And what we're going to do here, we're starting to think along the lines of these vertical. I'm going to do some of these vertical lines. Let's get a little more of the there. See, like this verticality, sections of light and dark sort of next to each other, running sort of side by side. It's, if it was just, say, I don't know, cloth or something way less reflective, you wouldn't be seeing these alternating sort of bands of light and dark. You see these alternating bands because, well, there's all this reflection going on, reflected light all over the place. So we've done some browns in on this guy and his metal, some purples. We're going to be doing some pinks, all kinds of interesting things. When I inject the reds into this too, that's going to have a big impact. And we're almost there. I just have to wait for things to dry a wee bit more. I also have to think, like here, see how we're getting that more of a sort of a sky color here, right? We do that. Maybe even a touch of that here, but so this goes from that cool sky color to then all of these warms that are reflecting that. I know, I guess in some terms people would see this as sort of sketching, I guess. I know that that's sort of a big thing. There's always terms. One person calls it one thing, somebody else calls it something different. This is actually Reaper Transparent Blue. Speaking of a sky type blue, it's going to be, see, look at how much more intense that is. I could do this also with something along the lines of the Achillean green and mixing that with the white. I could do that same thing. So you can see we're just, at this point, it looks sort of random. Like I'm just putting random bands of color in places. Well, look at, can you see how that's, we got blue and it works its way down to tan over there. I guess too, with the Bone Reapers, what I don't want to do is the same old color schemes that you see all the time. I also wanted to, you mentioned the Tomb Kings, I want to have some flavor of my own old Tomb Kings in there. Now, I'm thinking for sure as I start to lighten this up a little bit that I want to have those sort of interior skulls on them be almost illuminated. It's another reason why I'm screwing around with the fluorescent orange here because I want to see what that does because I may be using that on the Bone Reapers, the green version of, this is Liquitex golden acrylic, yeah. So we'll see if we're using that. Now here, I'm just gonna go more towards the faded ultramarine into here. But I have to keep in mind what that means. Now, with these brushes, I'll tell you, you have to sort of use them for a bit. And then, I don't know if you can see there. See that little extra hair that's on there? What you do is once that kind of shows up, you snip that off. Then you don't have to really deal with that anymore. That kind of goes away and it enhances it, makes it a more, even more usable brush. So once again, we're going to go in here and more of these linear effects. We did it even on this, the last Marvel Crisis. See that? On the leg there, see how there's bands of it? Because this was a shiny bodysuit here. So see, again, all those striations there. We're trying to do the same thing on this. However, we don't have that predominant, predetermined color like we did on Captain Marvel. Because, well, it's Ultron and he's supposed to be metal. Now, I don't know if he goes all Cylon with a glowing spine or not. Maybe that, hey, maybe that somebody can answer that because I haven't seen any pictures of him from the back. So that's a question I throw out to the general audience there. Those in the chat can tell me, does he go all Cylon with the glowing spine? You can see we're still not going to any sort of a highlight yet. Want to keep that particular arrow in the quiver, so to speak. Even that it looks very light, what I'm adding here, but it's actually not. It's, when we do that value scale thing from 1 to 10, 1 being the lightest, maybe we're at a 3 at this point. There's also a bunch of separations in the kind of these different armor plates. That is something that I'm going to have to factor in. I also didn't study this thing intensely in advance. I just kind of, well, I looked at it a little bit, mostly to make sure that there weren't any weird mold lines still around. And then I said, you know what? We are just going to paint this thing. We are not going to, like I said, study in advance and plan out every little thing. Because when you do that, well, you take away some of the spontaneity, but you also take away the potential for teaching moments. So here, see, we're just going to get some of that almost sort of sky blue color here, but see, even on his shoulder pad, light, darker, lighter, darker. Then maybe reflected light. Let's do some of that now. And because I've got all these colors out on the palette, I can just easily mix something up and do that reflected light down here. We certainly need some down here. It's just all a bunch of darks down there. All a bunch of darks. I'm just going to keep, tutti fruits. There will definitely be bone reapers on here. There will definitely be bone reapers on here. Uh, I really, I had this, as much as I really like the infantry figures, the cav. Uh, well, I think if you just look at my Lord of the Rings armies, and if you looked at my old Tomb Kings, what was there? There was a ton of cav. There was hardly any infantry. Well, there was some, but unlike the other vast hordes of just skeletons walking around, I had chariots, I had the cavalry, I had bow guys, I had all kinds of just stuff on horses. And you can bet I'm really looking forward to those horsies. Oh my goodness. And I'm fairly sure that their bodies, aren't they sort of, that they're the guys that actually have that those constructs have the interiors filled with skulls and skeletons and such things. But this is the other thing I also want to do. See how, remember the skulls that I showed you on those bases? Well, that was a little bit of a sneak preview as to some of the things you'll be seeing with the Bone Reapers. Now let's go here. I'm gonna grab a touch of that lighter white. Here's some of that snake bite leather, and again we're looking for reflected light here, which means not as intense as what our main light is, but also more hinted towards the color of what it's facing. And what it's facing is right over here. That would be this concrete. What I will do, and I did that on the base of Captain America, I'll paint in some cracks and other things. I think that's not going to be a bad idea here. Where's my, there's my wild wood. Let me get a little more of that, because whatever this little sort of crater type thing is here, I think I want to get some light around that. And over here, this is just all kind of dark. We need to get something that's lighter. And now that what's underneath there has dried, you can see we don't quite have the wet into wet, but because this is, I want to say, almost 50-50 contrast paint to regular paint, it is semi-translucent. Here you need reflected light on stone too, believe it or not. And I'm actually digging into some purple here. Believe it or not, crazy as that sounds, we're doing it. Gonna go back into this more of a sky blue color again. We're just about ready maybe to start to play around with a little bit of red. But look at this. See where? Can you see that? So that's more of the sky blue. It's not so much light dark light, but it's also a lighter. It's lighter, but also a different color. Also a different color. I'm gonna also have to throw some of this on his. I was gonna say his gloves, but that's really not necessarily gloves. What I'm going to do is go over here and turn down the brightness just a bit, ever so slightly, because at this stage, as I just kind of start to map things out, it can be a little blinding sometimes because you have some harsher differences. The neat thing about the Lamy and medium is that it actually lets you tone down and thin down stuff and do that, well, in effect, dry glaze that I was just talking about. We're looking for reflected light on his neck, reflected light on the torso here. And under, oh, yep, see, here we're missing some key reflected light here. Let's make sure, though, that we keep it in the same color frame as the concrete, though. So some more under here and under here. And there's nothing to say we can't also go back and do some darker glazes too. But look at how far we have to go here. I'm gonna put this white. Look at that. So you can see over here just the difference in how dark that is. What looks so light on the miniature, not light at all. So let's grab some of the Sakelian green because we can. It's sitting over here. So that's a little bit more dull than, say, the transparent blue from Creature Caster. It's one of those things that I'll note that for future reference here as we move along with this thing. And we're just sketching this out. We're gonna, I think I want, yeah, let's go with, where's my lighter tone here? Let's see if you can see this. So it's almost as if, so we're gonna put our lighter thing here, over here, then see how that's also broken. You know, it's not a long continuous light. That's sort of important because it's not so much that, say, the armor or whatever it is has some kind of flaw in it, it is dented or something like that. Well, maybe it is. But the thing that it's reflecting or the light source maybe is not, a perfect circle or whatever, and it's just hitting the figure in a different place, in a slightly different angle, and that light sources are very seldom continuous and perfect. It's different. Okay, I've got my magnifier light. It's a circle of lights. Well, when that reflects on something, it's going to reflect in a circle. That's just kind of how that is. All right, now before I get too deep into, no, I better do something over here. I got my blue again over here, and we are doing, see, right over this. It's something I need to just map in here real quick before I forget it, because I will. I think the other thing here is, let's see, no real glowing spine, but the deepest recesses tend to glow. So that's what we'll do. We'll go with that. And then now, Pretty Toots the Enemy is reminding me of the Lannisters that I painted. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a lot of the same things. Um, what I'm looking forward to, remember the Mountains Men in oils? That is another reason why I want to have practically doubles of the Bone Reapers. I'm always just going to, I'll probably call them Ossiarchs more than anything else, is because I want to try the same stuff in both. I want to do a unit of the Bone Reaper Cav, probably in acrylics first, because that's maybe what more people are familiar with. But then I'm going to hit those same guys again, hit them in oils, and just show what the difference is. Now here we need a turn. So see, we've got the sandy color down here, concrete color here, but let's get a little sky color right in here. And there. A little more. But what I used to do is just kind of make this one continuous color. As the more I looked at metals, and I highly recommend looking at Instagram of cosplayers in armor, because now you have sort of the real thing, as opposed to, well, it's hanging on a museum wall or whatever, it's in some studio thing. Try and, if you can, find pictures of actual cosplayers in the woods or whatever with armor. It will surprise you. It will stun you, probably, actually. It will shock you. All right, now, before I forget, we're gonna play with some of this. I'm just gonna use it maybe on its own first, real quick, just to see how opaque it is. Well, we know it's gonna go here. Wow, look at that. Interesting. You have to keep in mind, though, it's basically like a watercolor at this point. That is intense. For whatever reason, the camera doesn't necessarily like the fluorescent paints and show them to their full degree, but holy smokes, wow. This is, for being this thin, this is really intense. So, and you can actually thank Trevor for this little trial right here, because I was doubtful about these, wasn't going to get them myself, and then all of a sudden they appear, and it was, well, now you have no excuse not to try these because you have them. And as Trevor and the people that know me really well, they know, just if you want to see something, just set it in front of me. If it's here in front of me, I will most likely just grab it and try it. So yeah, look at that. So that's with nothing else added. Absolutely nothing else added. I think that is, I'm going to take some of it actually out here away from the wet palette and see what I can do with it. The question, you know what, I'm going to make these glow too. Maybe they don't, but for this purposes of this time around, we're going to say that they do. And the reason why I wanted to get this glowing stuff in, at least at this point, was, well, a couple reasons. First, before I got too light with everything, and then there's also this. How can you have this glowing mouth here with super shiny armor and nothing, absolutely nothing glows anywhere else? There is no glow repeated anywhere. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. So we're actually even gonna have a little bit of the orange work its way around here. So I'm impressed. That is color me impressed. I did not expect that. So that's very cool. I'm glad that worked out the way it did. So we won't do the spine thing. It looks like these couple of areas, and as we let this dry, then we'll go in with sort of a mix of red, because right now we got plenty of orange in here, but we need some red. Dum, dum, dum. We're going to leave that go. So this is the clear red from Reaper Miniatures. Let's see what that effect that will have here. Yeah, that works. Yeah, so I think we've found something here, because I've tried other. Let me grab this real quick. I think if I can. We tried some of this. So this is also on the liquid side. It's again magenta fluorescent. It was as liquid as this, but it didn't have the intensity of this. It was kind of dull by comparison, I gotta say. It was actually more than a little dull. It was very dull. And I wasn't real thrilled with that stuff at all. I used it once or twice. I thought, well, maybe it's not the material, maybe it's just me not quite using it the right way or whatever intended purpose it was. I think it's really more for airbrushes. I mean, not to say you couldn't use this in an airbrush too. I'm sure you could. You can see I'm just starting to now wander away from the orange more towards the clear red. Heck, I could have mixed contrast, either Flesh Tear red or maybe Flesh Tear red instead of Blood Angel red with the fluorescent there. And I think that could have still been very effective. Let my just got to get the brush in here to make sure enough of that red gets around. There we go. So now with that, at least that in place, I can start to play around maybe with some lighter colors on the armor. So we've got, again, the creature caster, ivory. Now it's being mixed with some of the blue there from creature caster. See a little separation now, and this is still not the lightest highlight that we've got available to us here. We're still in the drawing phase. We're still sketching things here. Everyone that's listened to me ad nauseum talk about how those brightest highlights, those really do get saved for the very end. Comes from 2D art. Spent an awful lot of time doing 2D art. So I'm gonna make sure that I've got decent focus here. Just make my window bigger here in a second. So yeah, looks like that's okay, but now my window is going to get much bigger so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Yay, that's better. Once again, it's not so much layering or anything like that. It's more, like I said, it's sketching. I'm sketching light here. Just, I guess, think of it more in those terms. And like I said, I don't get bogged down in any one area. I just keep this moving. So let's say, like on the Captain Marvel, I would work the blue to a certain degree, and then I make sure that I stopped. Like here, I've been adding a lot of lights. I'm gonna go back to something more of a middle tone here. I mean, it looks light here, but compared to what I've been putting on there, it's actually pretty dark. I also want to inject. We gotta get some real genuine pink in here because hey, it ain't metal until it's got pink. And you say, what in the world are you talking about? Well, Tutti Fruits knows on the both Lannister units, on the halberds and on the Mountain's Men, we had the turquoise and the pink, one next to the other. The eye looks at it and goes, "Oh yeah, that's kind of a nifty gray." There's a lot. I don't know quite what color gray that is, but it's gray. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was purple and green next to each other. And there's my little trick that I like to use. So you can see already we got plenty of, see that purple in there. I'm gonna go over here to my zunk right there. So even now, you can see we're starting to really build those lights and shadows, but we take away that filter of the color. Our eye just sort of filters the color, and kind of makes us to believe, okay, yeah, it's this color. It's really not. It's sort of a trick that we artists do. Well, some of us do anyway. Some of us play little tricks on your eyes. That's what we do. That is what we do. Tricksy little magicians there. Gonna go with a little more of this here. Because, okay, you could get, and I know a lot of people, they've heard me not have kind words for things like non-metallic metal sets. Well, yeah, that's fantastic. It's got a bunch of grays and blues. They would actually maybe make some really nice, I don't know, flesh tones or whatever. But as far as being helpful for this, well, okay, what if he was on like a lava base or something? How's your non-metallic metal set going to work with that? What if he's standing on a green carpet? What if he has a red brick wall behind him? Well, your non-metallic set, unless you bought the non-metallic set for standing in front of brick walls, you got a situation. You got yourself a situation. But if you sort of just know how to handle those things from the start and just do like this, doing these little mixes and everything, well, you don't have to rely on $50 sets that are basically designed to only work under one circumstance. And yes, I'm doing a little bit of preaching there. This is this is my theater of the mind right here, which means you've entered a dangerous place, which is my mind. We don't call them mind melds here, we call them mind melts. And I will melt any mind that I can. So even this little tiny, well, not real tiny to me, but even this thing, see, I kind of turned it into a bit of a filbert, just so that I could work more broadly, more quickly. So here, this needs a little more of something. I don't know whether it's this sky blue or not. Actually, no, I'm going to go this route here with the lightened, shyish purple. Do something along the lines of this. Same thing here on this shoulder pad. So once you get things planned out, well, that's where you can start to smooth things out. It's where you can start to maybe find a little extra reflected light. Sometimes it's where you make alterations. You say, you know what, I thought that was going to work there, and you go, not really, not quite, not working. And you make a change. And that is easier to affect when you're not locking yourself into just one spot of the miniature the entire time. Like here I see, okay, I need to go back in with some dark, and that's again, that is the more the contrast style paint right there. More of that contrast style. We need a darken up in here too, so and it's not quite a sky earth. Not quite a sky earth. I'm gonna go back into my focus there. All of the focus, and if you do any of this kind of stuff, the journey from being in focus to out of focus is an eighth of an inch. So if something walks out of focus, I apologize. I will try and get it back into focus as soon as I can. But now my chat's covered up. Let's see. I'm going to go back up here. Let's go here. So no glowing spine. The floros are golden acrylics. Yep. It seems to be extremely bright with the camera not picking up the full intensity. Uh, Trevor's I've used that on scale 75 are very good. That's what Fruity Toot says. And speaking of which, I need to do another order from Creature Caster. Yeah, now, okay, well, let's try this. We're going to go a little bit smaller here with some brushes. We are going to try the Creature Caster Golden Yellow with golden acrylics. And we are, see, look at this. Now, you can't see this at all. There's just no way the camera's going to show it. But when I typically do this with some of the other fluorescent paints, mix them with yellow, they almost turn pink. It's bizarre. That is not happening here. And look at how intense. So here we have the intensity of, yeah, we have the intensity of the creature caster and the golden acrylics sort of working together. And I get a little more of the orange in there. So this is what, now I really can't wait to see what the green's going to do. And you can bet that will certainly be part of the Bone Reapers, without a doubt. Yeah, look at that. So I think this could make life very much easier on many levels. Yeah, that's doing some fun things. Now here I've got to go just more towards the orange here on the inside of this. Inside of his mouth here. So that is entirely unexpected. Entirely unexpected. Oh, let's not forget our, and this is not even, I haven't even gone to the straight up yellow or anything like that. This is literally just a tiny bit of the golden yellow mixed with the golden acrylics. Wow, yeah. Now sometimes, well, Trevor and I have talked about this a lot. Say the, oh gosh, what is it? The, not scale 75, the Vallejo. The fluorescent paints, for whatever reason, the blue is weird. Let's see. If it don't got pink, it ain't metallic. Oh my goodness. I think we have another t-shirt phrase or a sticker phrase. If it don't got pink, it ain't metallic. Well, then I gotta make a sticker for that. I have to come up with an appropriate. Oh, that opens up a lot of possibilities for what the graphic could be. That's for sure. That could be very entertaining, I think. Boy, well, send me a send me a message to remind me of that, because I'll a lot of times, especially since I'm filming these things at insane o'clock in the morning, don't always remember fun stuff like that. Those little phrase that pays. Here, I'm gonna try and even go a little lighter here. So again, we're putting a little more of the creature caster golden yellow into the golden acrylics fluorescent orange to get a few things that are even brighter. That's getting the job done. No doubt about it. And if it ever gets too bright in one place, well, see, we can grab some of our fluorescent. And now we're just going to glaze it over the top. And that's, I guess this is the advantage of the golden acrylics here, is because it starts out so liquid but still intense. I can use it more effectively just as a glaze. The other one, like that mecha that I was showing you, it is not all that intense. And if you try and glaze it, it dies. It's just gone. Now we're okay. We've done a whole lot with our. I'm gonna put some green in here. doing a lot of blues and purples. Now I've got almost like a teal type of color here. And that's going to go in a few places. I want to make sure that this doesn't end up being only strictly tan. We're also going to now try and work in something more fun here as far as colors down here in the lower parts of the legs. Don't want it to be too bright, and you can see, look here, I'll take some of this, put it next to it. Look at how dark that is compared to the white. So nowhere near a highlight. It's essentially just another middle tone. Just another middle tone. And I haven't even messed around with things, say like this, where you have the separation in metal plates. Think of what that's going to add further on down the line. Now I just mixed a little bit of my sort of sepia color in with that green. Yeah, let's get some of this here. We need turn right here. We have some lighter stuff there. So there's no, it's not like there's no shape there, but see what that did? We just add another extra little level of lights in there. And I always have all these colors are just right there, handy for me to use. Right there in a veil, I could just go, oh yeah, okay, here, I'll grab that. Now those, not quite sure that those should be orange or that we're going to have the orange. I think it's just, there's just a separation in these plates here. So I'm not sure how much more of the orange will place in these different areas. Yeah, let's get again some. I'm going to use some of that green here. I always like to have sort of the green next to that purple. So that's what sort of makes the eye convinced that it's just gray, because it sort of mixes the purple and the green together. Let's see what happens now when we take some of this white and some of the straight up transparent blue from Creature Caster. So it's even more of a pure blue right there. Hey Paul, how's it going? So as you can see, doing some fun, super shiny, non-metallic stuff. Sneaking in some object source lighting too, just because, well, this is Ultron and, well, he's got glowing stuff. So we're doing that. We're trying to, we've sketched in most of the, what we want color-wise, light and dark-wise. Now it's starting to play with, we're starting to add some of this reflected light here. So I got that green that I can use. And I think you can see what I'm, so here we've got light, dark, and now we're going back into some light again, but it's muted in a couple of ways. It's not as, just not quite as light, but it's also kind of a dingy color in comparison. In comparison to the areas around it, it's sort of on the dingy side. That's another way of controlling it. We have to constantly exert control over those lights and darks. So let's go back into some of this green here, and we will deposit some right here onto our rocks again. Say, well, what's the deal with the green light? Well, If you got that blue, yep, from the sky or from above, we'll just call it from above. If you're going to have that tan color on the concrete, well, in some ways that bluish light kind of influences the color of your concrete. It's also a heck of a lot more interesting than just endless applications of tans. So there's that too. There's just trying not to be bored. Now we're back into our Creature Caster Faded Ultramarine. Look at how light that can be. It also has a little bit of purple in it too. Also has a little bit of purple. So again, we're hitting some of these areas with a little bit of a lighter, those striations that we talked about early on. Now the shoe here, as it's not quite a hard edge here. It's sort of a soft hard edge. There's a little bit of a turn here. It's not just 100% just. Now we're going to go back to this. So this again, the Creature Caster white, the Creature Caster transparent blue, and I've done a few episodes that really focus on the transparents. At this point now, I'm sure some of them might be in live sessions, but also some of them are probably Patreon videos. And oh look, the Patreon page thing that's scrolling across right now. And I suggest maybe just giving it a look. You know, there's also some of the older Patreon videos. Those are just on the YouTube channel, so you can get kind of a sense of how a recorded video works. Whereas this is obviously a live session here, so it's the dynamic's different. A little bit different a dynamic that's they're not answering live questions. That's actually the reason why I do these live sessions, is because it gives me a chance to do things like that, which I don't get with the regular recorded videos. Now we're starting to get say, okay, where should really nifty. See how that's just right there at that point there at the crest of the helmet? We will do that again on this side and over here. And I think we're, I mean, really about an hour into this, because there's always some conversations and, well, typing of passwords and other crazy things that I have to do. So now it says 1 hour 13 minutes on the clock, and actual painting time probably more like an hour. And this was just nothing but primer, again, to start out with. That's all it was. Just bare primer. Because with these, I try to do these all in one sitting for you. Now the Patreon page, those Army Painting series there, those are 5 episodes long. Some of the more recent series, Cypher Lords from Warcry, the Necrons that I did, and the True Metallic Metals. So we're just going through now, starting to bring out some of these lighter colors here. Trying to find, and I want this, so right here, another one of those linear highlights. So what I'm going to try and do is right along here. Guess what? I'm going to take some Lamy and medium to this and just to see what happens. I know what it does with the GW paint now because we tried it. Oh gosh, what did we just try it on? We just tried it on, it was at the last live session. Oh, it was the Untamed Beast. That's right. Yeah. That's right. So it seems to still work okay with the Creature Caster paints. Oh, hey Aviad, how's it going? Oh, and I bet you that was Fruity Toots. Yes. Oh, hey, Paul went off to dinner. Engineered the draw. How's it going? Let's see. Oh, and Aviad. So yeah, the Sky Earth, ye old Ultron here. Let's see. What was I have the who's the one with the glowing box? I've got him because Kathy has some. She's doing obviously Black Widow, but she's going to do that sort of in plaid to make it more like Plaid Widow. Here, I was going to do some alternate color schemes. I actually am. I've got, I think it's Captain America. He is going to be in an alternate color scheme. Actually, he might be more like this because I wanted to do him in the faded ultramarine. Of course, as we know, there's no color that's more powerful than faded ultramarine. No superhero has more power than faded. Nothing does. It's just it dominates the universe. Look at this. Now we're starting to. We've been working with lights. That's good, but now we are going to go back and start to bring in some darker things. I can clean up seams a little bit, and but see here we have all of these different. We have some of the sky blue, then a sort of a purple medium tone, then the light highlight over the top of that. I think you can. It gives you a handle on where these things are going. So yes, Nestor, that's on the way, baby. There's no way we don't have some of that faded ultramarine into our alternate color scheme, Captain America. I think that one's going to be a Patreon one though, because this some of the alterations to it. I don't know. I don't want YouTube getting mad at me, so he'll be a little bit different than the typical Captain America. We'll put it that way. Because you know me and not doing things like they're supposed to look. Here. That's again that sort of reflected light done with the warmer color. So we're back into that green again here. There's some of that purple again. Here's another one of those. See how we've got these alternating lines of lighter, darker, lighter. I'm telling you, you go to do the Instagram thing and look at cosplayers and look at cosplayers in armor, and that's what you're going to see. You will see that alternation of all those different patterns. Everything that's around them, that's what it's reflecting, essentially. So now, speaking of the adding some of the pink there, and some over here. And it looks like it's very light. It's actually not. It's still in that middle tone sort of range. Let's go and try and find some lights again in a few key areas here. I'm gonna do some right here. See how that worked its way down to that. Sometimes it's connect the dots a little bit. It makes sense to sort of connect your highlights, give that highlight a path, almost like electricity. It follows a certain path. We'll do that here. Let's get some lighter colors here on the knuckles. Sorry, my microphone cord is just sort of wrapped around me all of a sudden. And I'm looking for, where'd you go? right in here. I want to start to get a few little, at this point, they're just sort of edge highlights on some of these bits like that. Like that. You can see the brushes get a little bit finer also with each area they start to move towards. Here, let's get some bright pink in here on his hand. Because, you know, all hands have hot pink on them, right? Now I don't think that has orange on it either, so we're not going to put that on there. But there's sort of a seam here that we're gonna throw some paint onto that. And of course, every reference I've found showed me something different. So at a certain point, you just have to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I know this reference shows this, but the sculpt shows this. The heck with it. This is what I'm just going to do. Shoes certainly need a few defining points here, just like everywhere else. The temptation, though, is to make these just as bright as, say, the top of his head. That's something I used to do all the time. Even now, sometimes I have to just kind of remind myself, no, don't make the highlight as bright as the top of their head, because this is kind of like close to the ground and doesn't really need a super bright highlight. And this is why I like to always keep moving around the miniature. Don't get stuck, don't get bogged down into one place. Always keep moving. Yeah, that's a nice little light edge right there. With the Sky Earth, there's that sketching it out stage where it can be a little scary because it may seem like you're just kind of blindly putting out these different areas of color, but there was method to the madness. There really was, I promise. There is plenty of madness, but there is method to it. Now, of course, something like this and this is pretty large. This is probably, I don't know, at least 30 to 40% larger than the Captain Marvel that I did. So we'll see, and it's got a lot of stuff going on. Now, of course, there's really no face to paint, no hair. What's weird is there's technically fewer colors to paint, but there's more colors to deal with. If that makes any sense. Just gonna look over here. Oh, I see Trevor and Engineered to Draw. How you doing? Ah, let's see. Oh, thanks very much, Engineered Draw. It's much appreciated. Yeah, it is sort of intermediate, really. I try to. I guess if I can catch you early enough, then there's actually less things to sort of, I don't know, unlearn, and then you're kind of breaking in sort of at the beginning as opposed to, well, wait a minute, I've been painting this way for years. Now there's this whole new philosophy. Now this definitely, yeah, see there's no reflections up here. I gotta get me some reflections there. And sometimes the reflection is just the metal reflecting the metal. That's the other thing I saw with the cosplayers and such. Okay. Oh, and Aviad, you ordered the game after the Captain Marvel vid. Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, here, let's hold up this should be good. So here we have, this is the latest army painting series that I just started. Some Rohan, and that's, so he kind of towers over the Rohan cavalry. So he's big. Well, it does let me do more of this stuff. That's for sure. No doubt about that. No doubt about it. And Engineer Joe had a lot of fun painting along with the, oh yeah, the Necrons. I'm gonna grab one of those here real quick. Actually, this is a good point to do that. Thanks for reminding me. So I'm just gonna grab the whole box of them here, and so this is with the, yeah, with the metallic paints. You see the blues in there and the purples and the ochres. We're trying to simulate the same thing here, but we're doing that with just the more traditional regular paint. See, we've got the, look at that, the purples, the blue. That's not color shift paints. Those are just different colors of metallic paints mixed together. Oh, what series is that? Series 13, right? Yeah, that's series 13 because Cypher Lords, which is these guys, so this is more traditional metallic, non-metallic metals here, but in golds. And now here we've got our sky earth over here. Definitely more sky reflections. Let's go. Let's go for some light faded ultramarine. Why not? But we are going to use a little bit of our Lamian medium to thin that down a bit. It's still pretty intense even with the Lamian medium. So that's, I just wanted to see what does the Lamian medium do versus water when you're mixing it with the creature caster. Let's get ourselves, yeah, a bit more light over here, and same thing over here. Whatever this is, kind of the hip joint type thing. Let's get some de facto rib cage highlights there. And now I'm going to go back to this. Again, that's that creature caster transparent blue. Can you see it? Yeah, okay, good. That's on the screen there. And the other thing that you start to do at a certain point then is you've got all these things sketched out, then maybe you refine those a little more. You start to blend things together. So maybe there's a little less of the harsh lines. So now we're starting to do some semi-glaze work here. And the whole idea is softening. We've got lots of hard edges here and points where the color just sort of diverge quickly. Oh, this is another important thing here. So let's get, see what I just did there? That's that same intense blue. Where am I putting the most intense blue next to the most intense orange? Of course. It's another way of making it. Look at, we're going to do the same thing over here too. Where's my, there it is, my Lamian medium. The little bends up here, if you see those are just little watercolor things. Super cheap on Amazon. I'm sure you can find them in Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any sort of craft store or whatever. I'm sure you can. Super cheap, and you can see they're pretty handy for things like the contrast paints or, well, even things like the medium. Let's say you're using Flow Improver. It's a way to keep it in your wet palette area and also keep it from being, well, knocked over. Even if I was to knock over one of these cups here, it has very little material in it as opposed to, well, knocking over an entire 8-hour jar of contrast paint. Because, yeah, not a lot of us can just kind of kick one of those over and not be sad. and mourn at the 8 hours worth of paint that's now flowing across your table or you. Now, that might be insult to injury. Now I'm starting to add some more blues in here. The Necron series was, yeah, that was, well, it was out of the box for me because I'd never done anything like it before, not even close. And that was sort of the point of the Patreon stuff, was so that instead of me, while I do this also, it's called the On the Workbench series, and some of those are already just up on the regular YouTube channel. That's where I take commission stuff and I just turn it into a tutorial. But those have a very different vibe because, well, it's a commission. When you do a commission, you do what you are told. That's how it works. Someone says, I will give you money to paint the figure, but I get to choose how it's painted. Whereas with the army painting series, I get to paint those armies the way I want to. Now, see, we're going to emphasize light, middle tone. So that's a touch darker, and then we've got this lighter area on the just on the flip side of that. We're going to do that here in the chest. So this is, we're taking that Lamia medium, and now we're starting to glaze things here. Look at that, see? And I will compare it. This is the latest live session. Do I have the right one? Good. So we've got skin tone here, but the principles are kind of the same. See that? How it's, you've got the bit of reflected light and such. It's basically the same type of principle. And I will continue some of these glazes right here, because why not? Why not? And the more of this blue that I can work in here, the more, look at how the red and the orange start to stand out a bit more. This is what I try and tell people is don't panic, because when they're new to doing this, they start to kind of freak out a little bit because they're not getting that instant gratification, because that's what most of the different painting techniques promote, is that right away, okay, look, you got the face done. It's all done. Look, you can see all this progress. Sort of, kinda. So we're going to work in some of this, and it's such a more of a middle tone than anything else. I'm going to work in a bit more here. Some over here too. So look at what that's doing. So it brings in some of the blue. Now it also will contrast with this orange here. And like I said, I could do this for hours and hours, or let's say, just kind of like I always talk about with the army painting series, if I need to actually play a game with this, I take it off of the little dead paint jar here, use it, throw it back on the dead paint jar, and paint some more. This needs more in the way of contrast too. See here, we've got these, now you can see it. They're just little points of light there, but now, see, we're going to unify those a bit with this sort of semi-glaze here. This is where it gets really fun. And like I said, I still have all of those brighter highlights still sitting here in my pocket to use. Like one right there. What are when you think of the most basic principles of when you're doing something like a sky, they're trying to represent that whole non-metallic metal thing. Okay, stark contrasts, yeah. but lots of different reflections. You've got the sharp edges too, but also the highlights are more like points of light as opposed to these broad, finely blended, widely blended. This is more just, okay, a quick point here, and then the next color, then another quick point, and then the next color. Is this on? Oh yeah, it's on screen. Sometimes I suspect that I'm kind of wandering off screen, but sometimes that's just paranoia. Again, looking for. And once you do those lightest lights, well, then I have to start thinking, okay, if suddenly I feel like there's not a lot of contrast in a given area, that could be because there's not enough dark, and I gotta go the opposite way. And I'm gonna go the opposite way here with a bit of darker gray in here. We're gonna have that go here, some of that here. Now here on this helmet thing, that's a little flat right here. We got something's got to happen here. I either have to add maybe some kind of lights on this side and or darks on the other. Yeah, we have some middle tone there, but we're shy on some darks. So we're just taking some of that contrast, Leviathan blue, even some of that original sort of pink and green mix. We're going to shove in some darks here. I could glaze those in too if I wanted. And suddenly contrast appears out of nowhere. We start to restore some of that. Yeah, here this needs it. Let's get some in between the fingers here. I'm gonna always try to check the chat there, see who's asking questions and such. There are some segments to the fingers. Almost all of these sort of de facto armored glove type things have that going on. And around this eye here, we need to tighten that up, so we're actually going to make that sort of a darker grayish blue. And do that like so. Yeah, it starts to make the eyes, the glowing eyes, well, that much more glowing. But it can't just be all dark in that area. We've got to get some lighter colors. Actually, I'm going to play around with that green, and because nothing says opposite like green versus red. And that's what's going to happen here. I think you can see where I'm at. It's going to move my light a little bit here. Because if this, see this slope right here, if this was just painted metal or something like that, or whatever, I don't know what kind of a surface, this light to dark is okay, but this is supposed to be the whole shiny metal thing. So I'm taking some Lamy and medium to that. So we've got ourselves a line there. Let's see if we can broaden that line. I'm just taking some of the Lamy and medium here. And seeing, can I just pull this out, sort of bit of a glaze like that. I think that worked now with that in place. Just let me, yeah, here we go. See how it's just a point right there. It's just a point, and that is it. It's hard because sometimes the temptation is to just keep on going and just continuing to lighten, lighten, lighten. Sounds like a German phrase there all of a sudden. Once again, now some of the green, we're going to work its way. Oh yeah, this definitely needs some reflected light here, for sure. There's also a bit of a seam right there. That's a little too light yet. We're darkening it down. I actually got some pink in here now. And that is working its way right over here. See where that's going? And it becomes these series of, now here we go. We gotta, can't necessarily be that dark right there. It's got to reflect some of these, like his, well, basically his shoulder pad here. So now we have our some of our reflections, and let's see if we can't make this slightly lighter right there. That's all I needed to do. This also, I mean, yeah, we've got our orange glow from the mouth there. Once again, trying to get me some points on this. Points of light. That now needs, it is deficient in some reflected light, so we will put that in. We added the darks in there, but now I'm taking some of that sort of pinkish purple color, and you'll see what's going to happen there. And there, let's go a little bit brighter with that. And then get some of that onto my metal there. So see what we have. We have that sky blue color there, and now then it goes, drifts into that sort of pinkish purple color. Because if it ain't metallics, if it ain't got pink, that's Tutti Fruits declared that, so that's just how it's got to be now, from now on and forever. Once again, we're going to clean some things up there. I'll check the chat in a second here. I'm kind of not wanting to lose my focus on what I'm doing here on the chest. Oh, engineered the draw. Well, I'll catch you next time. What's today? Tuesday-ish now. Yeah, Tuesday. I'll try and do another one either Thursday or Friday. Oh, I'm also going to be experimenting with IGTV. It's basically Instagram. It's sort of like the YouTube of Instagram, mostly because it has to be shorter things, like 1 hour videos. And what I want to do is, there's some creature caster figures. There's things that there's no way that even I, in a 3 hour session, could paint them. So my goal is to actually try and do some things over these 1 hour episodes. So I got some creature caster things, other stuff that just, again, way too much for something like this. Because even I can't do this the entire night long. I actually do need to sleep at some point, someday. I think I'm doing even this right now at about 4 hours of sleep. If it don't got pink, it ain't metallic, that's it. So once again, now I'm starting to work back into some of these lights. And it's just back and forth. Sometimes it is back and forth. Now here, I'm actually adding one more area of light there instead of just dark light dark. Sometimes depending on the metal surface, you need to break it up one more time. Okay, what about up here? Let's go once again back to our sky color here. Do a little more on this upper surface. It was a little dark for something that's pointed up towards the sky where the apparent supposedly light source is. So it's looking a little dark. This also was looking a little devoid of that sky blue color. Now, one of the reasons why I'm using the creature caster white here is because it really does cover. I mean, it covers like crazy. For something like white, man, it really covers. So it's handy for things like this where you need to do these edge lights and have them be very bright. So we've focused an awful lot on, say, the face and everything. Well, let's not forget these other areas here too. Face is important, obviously. Center of interest, all that kind of stuff. Center of interest, definitely important. Trying to, again, work these. Trying to find a path with these highlights all the way down to the legs here. And I know sometimes when I spin this around, it makes it really difficult for you to see. I do apologize for that. But it's one of those things where I need to be able to see it or just have it be a place where I can get the brush. There's that minor detail also. So I'm going into my just Leviathan blue here again, a little bit of the snakebite leather. I'm going to darken up some areas here on the foot. We need some, yeah, we need a little bit of dark there. We also have to go, believe it or not, we have to put some middle tones in there, some reflected lights in there, just like we did on the face, like up here on the helmet and such. We got to start doing that. Some of these other locations that are maybe missing that just a bit. And I'm going to do that right over here. Now I know painting feet is it's not necessarily the most inspiring, awe-inspiring thing or whatever, but I mean, most everybody's got them. Got to paint them. So let's just do that. So working some of that green into my original snakebite leather here. Looking to do just like, again, that reflected light there. Got to make sure that some of that gets into my, well, if it's going to be supposedly reflecting from these rocks or concrete or whatever this is, well, it better be on the concrete too, and not just on him. See if we can go a little darker here. So where's my, yeah, some of that with the Leviathan here. And now we drop one of those nice impressive darks. Because like I say, all of the real action happens in the midtones. It's not really the highlights. It's not really the super shadows. I'm just doing me a little bit of a glaze right here. Then I'm going to work back into that. We're doing another glaze over here. Going to add another batch of darks over here. So now in the realm of the whole comic book stuff here and superheroes, where is Hellboy? Somewhere over here. Here he is. So this is another one that I'll be either doing this week or now this is from Mantic right here. So yeah, got him. We're gonna do him too. So like I said, there's no shortage of new and different things, especially for me, because I have never painted any kind of comic book superheroes ever before. I know there's what the Batman game, and there's other. Oh gosh, I can't remember what it was. A big old Kickstarter with a whole ton of figures in it. They actually weren't too bad either. I don't. Maybe at some point we run across those, but for now, I've got the cars too. The Marvel Crisis Protocol cars. We'll be doing those. We have the terrain. Speaking of terrain, well, I speak of terrain a lot because I love terrain. I really, really, really love terrain. I know was it it's this weekend the Rohan terrain hits along with oh yeah the Sauron and the new Grima Wormtongue. I still actually have my old mounted Sauron figure that I converted out of some Empire stuff. And I still have my old Grima, so that's going to be fun. I actually will be able to compare the old stuff to the new. I rarely get a chance to do that. Most of my old stuff is all gone, sadly. That is one of the last surviving remaining miniatures from my Lord of the Rings days, which are now back. Yay. So here we're doing that same sort of thing, trying to find we're splitting up some of these areas again. Hey Oliver, how's it going? Yeah, I'm gonna I'll also try what is it, the Twitch thing too. That is something, believe it or not, the first one or two might be kind of a very secretive thing because I have no idea how to get that working. Like here, I was trying to do the super chat thing, and it looks like a similar mechanism to the regular chat, but there's clearly something else to it. Unfortunately, the only way to really test it is to go live, and that is not something I want to do to just say, hey guys, looking to see if my chat's working when people are expecting, I don't know, a 2 hour lesson or a 3 hour lesson, and all you give them is a see you guys just testing a chat. So it's kind of hard to do that anonymously, to say the least. Not so easy to do that without people going on and go, okay, what's going on here? So again, we got see these neat little striations. Now let's go with a lighter pan. That's that Vulpes pink. Let's make it even lighter here because that's what you do. And hopefully you can see what was just done. So we got these two lighter lines here. And there's some dark there, but then the pink gets in here. And this is another thing that I saw in those Instagram photos of the cosplay armor guys. And I've saved a whole bunch of those pictures. if there was more room on the screen, I'd try and actually include some of those pictures here as a reference, but this new format only lets me have so much space. Once again, reflected light. Breaking these things up where possible. Now this, I gotta sort of straighten this out here a little bit. Give me some darker purple. Tone that down, and then we'll go back in with some little bit of reflection in there. What's hilarious is you can't necessarily see a lot of these once it comes time for stuff like the photographs, because I can't photograph it from every single angle. Yeah, I'm going to strengthen up some of my darks here too. That needs, I think that might be just the reflection core that I'm looking for. We got to do a couple of them here. This is on his jaw. Now on the underside of this. Yep, because that was all just pretty much dark. We got to do another one. There's clearly a place that should have some kind of reflected light on it. Looking to do some darker sky blue colors up here. I don't want to do, okay, this definitely, that's still from my original, some of my original washes there. I want to make sure I've got enough of a interesting turn right here. So I'm going to grab me some of the Lamian medium there. Because yeah, I've got those bright highlights sitting there, but I've got to extend those out a little bit. Oh, and two, I don't think I've got the Instagram site hooked up here as a scene, but if you want to see pictures of, well, like the painted Captain Marvel, you just go to my Instagram account. So you got the address right there, just Wappelius at Instagram. That's the case for pretty much all of the painted stuff. If you want to see how that looks, so here we're doing the live session. I will be doing a sort of the little thumbnail, right? That's going to have an image of what this looks like painted, but that's not the same as seeing just a regular photograph. So if you're looking for photographs of painted miniatures, you can look at the blog, go to the Instagram page there, tons of photographs. Here's my green. Sort of forgot about that. And I'm going to use a little bit of the Lamian medium there. Just looking to have a few, yeah, here, here. Remember that sort of line of highlights and such. It just works its way down. So this is looking awful flat here. I'm going to take, what the heck, I'll even throw a little bit of yellow in here. And it's on the inside of this leg here, because it was just looking a little boring, a little devoid of actual color there. And this is not a bad little color here. I'm gonna, again, that's the Creature Caster yellow. Something I'm gonna now put into my base here. Yeah, touch of a little extra contrast in some places. So this is, we're not quite 2 hours in, really. And so I guess what I really try to emphasize here is that, yes, it is possible to do things like the Sky Earth non-metallic that, and still be able to do it on units. You know, you can do it in a timely fashion, because if you can do this in a couple of hours, well, you're probably spending more time than that on your regular infantry anyway. That's without Sky Earth non-metallic. So I try and just show that, yes, a lot of things are possible that most people think are not. Always just, when I hear people say, well, you can't do that on this and you can't do this on that, actually you can. And that's what I try and prove pretty much every time I do one of these things, is there's a lot more possibility than you think there is. I'm going to go back to the Lamian medium there to thin that out a touch. Again, looking for some reflected lights in here. Something here. Okay, so we got this. What about right there? And I am going to go into my, that's the creature caster, bright ivory. Gonna go into here. And I even want a few, like I said, a few lighter colors here on my, on the base too. See if I can maybe make some cracks there. This, you know, if I really feel the need, I could put some rust on that, I suppose. Gonna go with my that ivory color here to do a few little on his shoe, because that's a little rough there, just like we had to do some work on the face to have some smoothness in areas. We're doing that now. Just kind of working our way down the figure here. I know that boots and shoes aren't really the most exciting things, but it still has to be done. I see you need a little more of that over here too. And you notice I emphasize on creating a little point of light there. Let's see what we can do to make this all a little more interesting. We've got our blue in there. Oh, sorry. I'll actually shrink this down. Hey, Bethany, how's it going? Yes, it's, well, I have a couple hours into this. Hopefully, well, I don't know if you saw the video that I posted to the Patreon page not long before we started this. Well, actually, about 2 minutes before we started this. And that was a basing episode. I love my basing. I've got another basing episode that I'm going to do where I just take a bunch of different figures from different, some Lord of the Rings, some Dark Swords, some Reaper, just a bunch of different things, and just show you how to, just a typical day in the life of me basing things. Because I don't just sit there and go, oh, look, I'm going to make one base for this one guy. No, here's these 40 or 50 figures. They all need bases of all different types. And since the basing process, I think you've seen in some of the videos, gets mighty darn messy, best to kind of get through that all at once. So you can see there's even some pinks here now, even in my so-called stone slash concrete color. But then I want to be sure that same color gets worked into my metals here. Definitely going to get a little reflection here. There are so many little individual panels that are kind of going every which way on this. Now, if I was to paint him again, that's the age-old thing. Well, it especially happens with armies because you usually learn exactly how to paint something, and then the project ends because you've painted all the figures. You've sort of learned the hard way what you need to do to get them all painted. But yeah, now the project's over. Let's see what we're doing there. Gonna try and get a little reflected light here, and then maybe some darks. Some darks under there. And there is a little bit of a panel line there. I was tempted to try and do these guys also in oils, just for the heck of it. Who knows, if I have another set of them, maybe I'll try that. It's something I try to do. I know with my dark sword videos I did that. I would take the same figure, paint it once in oils, and then repeat the same color scheme, but then do it in acrylics and vice versa. So I would do one in acrylics and then try and repeat that same thing in oils. This is where I want to get a bit of, and I need to clean up a few things in here too. Cleaning up things, but also getting some darks in there. Yeah, I think I want a dark over there. This glove needs a little refinement. Also gonna, just gotta drink something here. Just give me a second. And yes, that's a gross sound of me drinking something right in your ear. Okay, I'm gonna grab some of the Vulpes Pink, and we're gonna see if we can't around of our see the fluorescent reds that we did here and oranges. This, the idea behind this is to give it that extra little bit of a reddish look as opposed to just orange. Sort of using that Vulpes Pink to shade my clear and thin it down too. So it's kind of like I think I was calling it then that during the Warcry Beasts one, it was basically a like a colored Lamian medium or some kind of medium that had a color to it. So again, we put the reds down there. Now let's see if I can get some up around here too in the face. This one needs 2. So now the glowing part looks a little bit more like a glow because we've got this somewhat darker intense red. And like I said, we experimented for the first time with the golden here. Hey Will, how you doing? Well, I'll catch you later, Fruity Toots. thanks again for stopping by. And yeah, well, the next one that I try of this, well, we'll give the super chat a try again and see if we have more success. Because remember this, I'd given up on doing just a regular chat at a certain point, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what I did, but it started to work. So hopefully, the next time out on Thursday or yeah, Wednesday or Thursday or whatever, we can make that work. Yeah, that should make it a little darker, also a little bit cooler. I'm just trying to work right around the edges of whatever these are. Now, I want the eyes to have a little more of a glow to them, so we're sort of doing this darker stuff, and then we're gonna go back into. I'm gonna take this ivory color here. We'll mix that in there and see just how. Here, I'm gonna get some of the fluorescent, so that doesn't mix too poorly with the white there. And now let's get this in his that portion of his eye. So yeah, that brightens that up. That's effective. How's about here? That's effective too. So I'm really pleased with how that particular fluorescent paint works. Who'd have thought? With all of the different fluorescents I've tried, with widely varying degrees of success, that that would emerge as a real answer there. Nope, nope, nope. I'm gonna go with more with the fluorescent orange here. And here. Now back to this lighter version that we made. I just try and work a nice bright dot in there. So I think that works. And the sky blue also, same thing. Speaking of sky blue, I'm back into that one more time here. Because we've got plenty of our sort of I don't want to say off-white, but our grayish colors there, the pinks, the greens and stuff. But I'm thinking I want to get a little more in the way of the sky color in some spots. Here, this actually has to be more of a dark there, and then we will see what sort of reflected light we can get underneath it here. Like that. Oh, where's my lighter pink color? We'll get that thrown in there too. Yeah, some of this stuff, it maybe not is the most exciting thing in the world, just putting a batch of reflected light in that one little place. But without it, you just don't have any kind of shape. Even putting reflected light onto the individual fingers here. Oh, I want to see if I can't go another step lighter. Some of these areas. I'm, again, a little bit blind on this because all I don't know, for obvious reasons, I guess, the references really did focus on the front of him, not the back or the side. So I have to kind of make some guesses. And I want to Get some lights over there. I don't want to outline these things. That would not be something I want to do, but if I'm going to have that much action down here, say on the feet and such, I need to make sure that all the stuff on the chest there, again, which is really part of that whole center of interest thing. This is a quick little cleanup on a few areas again, like you've seen me do before. I need to get some, yeah, that needed to be darker there for sure. If I was using the Reaper paints again, like I did on the Captain Marvel, blue liner, brown liner, I mean, nothing fancy. And we'll do the same thing here too on our base. Now, a quick sort of semi glaze of the Leviathan blue. Now, when you're doing these, the light, dark, light sort of lines and that kind of thing, it can be difficult when you have all these panel lines too, because there's another one over here. There's another one over here. Now I need some more shape in this glove right here to break up these little individual segments. Something that usually it's best to do it as we're doing this sort of towards the end here. How long we are? Well, basically 2 hours and 5 minutes into this, effectively. So one thing, you can do reflected darks. I'm not really sure I've mentioned that very often, but I keep talking about reflected lights all the time. There is such a thing as reflected darks. I'm gonna see if I can't, via the sky colors here. Speaking of reflected darks, do something like that. And then we'll go back in some of our faded ultramarine with the ivory there. So it's not just a lighter color, as we said before. Now it also is. It's literally a different color. It's a warmer, more purple type color. I need to get some straight up lighter highlights around whatever these things are on his shoulders. Something like that. And up here on the top of this helmet, for sure. There we go. I'm going to try and do, yeah. So right in there I got to do either some kind of lighter sky blue. So we're going to do a couple of hints here. And then I will take some of the ivory. I think you can see what's going on here. Yeah. Boom, right there. So see, we've got that edge now. It's, again, the more pure, saturated bluish tones with the much more, far less saturated, I guess, warmer tones. Speaking of, we have to hit this here. This has kind of been, it's a little bit inadequate there. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I knew there was just something missing here, and now I see what it was. Yeah, that just right away definitely helps. Alright, inside of these fingers, some kind of light. Can't just be dark like that. That doesn't make any sense. Some lights over here, and this thing definitely, this little joint here where the knee is. I'm gonna use some of my, again, that's some of that purple type color there. There's a little lighter version of it. I think some of these little sections of the spine also need some kind of highlights here. I know we just hit him with the blue. Yeah, let's see what we can do with our bright ivory too. And it's pretty delicate stuff here. I'm trying not to go overboard with the application of the white. We're always preaching about that. Now this, again, more, a little bit of cleanup there. We need to get some brighter highlights on this side of, so I'm gonna, the hand is kind of messing with the focus there. That's better. Because it's wanting to focus on that thing that's closer, even though the thing that I'm painting is deeper inside the figure. Here, and now I can enhance this, because that's why we did the deeper red over there. That's why we did that. Now, we've cleaned that up pretty well. This is some of the same colors that I was using here on the concrete. But you can see even here there's essentially sort of a red and a green right next to each other right here. But you notice it's also concentrated in an area where I was hoping to maybe draw a little bit of attention. Just draw the eye towards that. And I'm torn. There's a few areas here where I'm really tempted to, like in here, put some, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do that. I'm looking for, that's it. Because that was really looking a little too, with all of the other reflections we got going, that was looking a little bit peaked right there. And I gotta try and get some more of these little linear type highlights here. Oh, what else can we do on our concrete here? Again, trying to make it fall in line with what we did with the Captain Marvel figure. And there are times with the digital sculpting, maybe things can get a little soft and mushy as far as the sculpting goes. And I just like back in the days of the old metal figures, sometimes where you kind of had to paint in texture that maybe wasn't really there and just pretend it was there. Sometimes that's what we got to do here, even in this day and age with the more modern sculpting tools. So again, trying to find myself some. Yeah, I think that needs to be. Yeah, needed some reflected light in there too. When you've got somebody that is this, it's supposed to be this shiny, it means you will be doing this like crazy. Okay, so what should reflect onto this? What should reflect onto that? And just imagine if I had him in some kind of painted backdrop behind him or whatever, or some other type of stuff. I'd need to actually kind of paint that in too. That is, once again, the ProAcryl transparent blue mixed with some of the, basically the white there. Now we're into the faded ultramarine. And this is to essentially reflect these two armor surfaces onto each other, the shoulder onto the chest plate and vice versa. And yeah, that's going to need some lights there too. Let's see if I cannot figure out, see what's going to happen when I take we've got the Vulpus pink here. We've got oh yeah, that's a really nice, that's a nifty little pinkish purple right there. And where do I want that to go? I want to go here. A few places I have in mind for it. Like there. Maybe even touch more of it under these fingers. Definitely need some reflected light. Let's see if we can get some brighter version of this here. So yeah, I like the Vulpus pink and the faded ultramarine together, of course. What is that? You know, somebody makes anything look good that they wear. The faded ultramarine goes good with everything. I know Nestor's going to back me up on that. Now there's a whole bunch of dark here on this underside of this arm. You may not even be able to see this, but it's something I just have to kind of take care of here. And of course, faded ultramarine lets me do that, because that's just how powerful it is. And that is from Creature Caster slash Slow Fuse slash Monument slash whatever. The Paint of 1,000 Names. I'm going to return to a little bit of darks here, just cause. And I'm going to try and do, yes, we're adding some darks here, but my goal, should it work, is to take actually this nifty little purple color here, and I'm looking to get it in what should, you'd almost consider normally a shadow area, and that seemed to, yeah, that kind of worked there. Gonna maybe go in a little bit more into the faded ultramarine there. Aha. Sometimes it's a fun surprise to actually have a sneaky light area like that, and something that normally is considered a shadow area. Hard to explain, but it's a fun little visual surprise for people looking at your miniature. Once again, down here I feel like I could have more, yeah, reflections on that. Now, what about this up here? Do I grab the white? And again, that's the blue from Creature Caster, the transparent blue. Yeah, that sort of works there. Let's see what we can do to get the shoulder pads here to be sparkly, but and have some sudden transitions, but not only just sudden transitions. Well, we most certainly need some kind of, on this collar here, again, another line of highlights. You see how that it goes from this point here on the shoulder pad and travels right up, all the way up through the neck to the helmet. A bit more there. Yeah, I'm going to actually clean this out, get some of the blue and junk out of here, and see if I can have a few just points of bright yellow light so that the so-called glow is lighter than just the highlights of the metal. Alright, that's effective. Let's do that. See if I can't also hit the eye here. That worked out okay. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Couple little dots, so now we've got some nice glowing stuff happening there. And then, for the heck of it, even though it's not necessarily meant to be reflecting any glow, I just want to use this yellow color here, more because it's very different than what I've got here, instead of just highlighting another pink or another blue or whatever. Here, I'm going to take, so it's almost a very bright lemon yellow. This is not necessarily going to show up so much on camera here, but trust me, it's doing something. Might even, yeah. There's a couple of these little ridges there. So now, actually those, whoops, those highlights stand out now a little bit more by virtue of them actually having a little yellow in there. And then, like I said, I always really try to keep that pure white stuff until the end, because we're at 4:30 here, so we've been working about 2.5 hours on this. That's not too bad. Now, if you want to be notified when these things are going to happen, you do the subscription thing, but you also have to hit the notification bell, as I learned the hard way. If I subscribing. I mean, you'll find out when a video has happened, but if you want to find out when it's happening, you kind of have to do the subscriber bell and the notifications bell. You have to kind of do both of those things. And if you can drop a like on this or whatever, that's much appreciated. It helps YouTube find out that this is something that is helpful to people and they want to see maybe more of it. And just thanks to the folks doing the Marvel Crisis Protocol thing, because for Kathy and I, we got to try some of these and have some fun with them. Again, really new and different type stuff for us. That's for sure. And if you ever, like I said, if you're thinking about, it'd be kind of nifty to have, I don't know, 200, more like 235 hours or 36 hours of video tutorials now. You give that Patreon page a little bit of a check there and look at that Army Painter pledge level, because that's got a whole bunch of stuff. A whole bunch of stuff. And there's so many different genres and materials and techniques covered in that. There is something for everybody, without a doubt. Non-metallic object source lighting. And now that we're back into the GW thing, heck, I've got aeronautic planes that I've got set up for that. Those are ready to go. I think I'm on, my fourth Lord of the Rings army painting series. Because, hey, Lord of the Rings, can't play it if you don't have the figures painted. Alright, well, thanks again, everybody. I am going to sign off for tonight. Just want to say thanks to Trevor, First Last, Fruity Toots, and Will, and Oliver, and Aviad, and Engineer to Draw, and Bettany was in here too for a little bit. And we had Paul in here too. So thanks, Paul. I'm going to see if Brian made it in here too. Just going through my little list here. Oh, and Peter. And First Last, of course, because he was one of the first. So I'll thanks again, everybody. Hopefully you had some fun, and hopefully there's some things that little helpful hints that you saw here as I painted up this Ultron figure. Catch you on the next episode.